We have already spoken about what is privacy impact assessment, how should it be conducted, and what are the challenges that organizations face when they conduct PIA. In this video, we are going to talk about an effective documentation and reporting system for PIA so that the organizations should get maximum possible benefit out of it. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and as I mentioned, in this video, we are going to talk about effective documentation and reporting in privacy impact assessments. What is a PIA or a privacy impact assessment? An internal procedure that an organization should do to re-evaluate their processing. What are the processing processes? If you are collecting, storing, using, sharing with third party or deleting personal information of any citizen, in our case a citizen of India, then you need to be liable to be compliant with the Indian DPDP Act 2023, and you should satisfy their norms, plus you should ensure that the personal data is taken well care of in your organization. With PIA, you try to re-evaluate those processes and find out if there are any risk of breach and how can you minimize, if any, or if you are not able to minimize immediately and you get an impact, then how could you mitigate the impact as well. It helps you measure your compliance with laws and regulations, adopt standards, and improvise on internal policies and procedures. You can make your policies and procedures better. All organizations have policies and procedures by them. The only difference now is that we are saying now have a look at them from privacy point of view also, where personal data is involved. Why should you do documentation? Documentation helps you in regulatory compliance. It helps you to get quick response to regulators. Regulator comes in and says, how are your processes? You show them. They say, do you know any risk? You demonstrate them. Have you mitigated them? You show them how you have done that. Becomes easier for the audits and the regulators also, and for you also to get through the compliance checkmark. You demonstrate your accountability to your stakeholders, which include your data principals whose personal data you collect. You ensure outlined risk identification and mitigation for your organization. The risks are outlined, given, known to you and your organization. And it also helps you follow up and close up the risks that are already known. So how does it help? If it is to be properly documented. If it is not documented, how would you remember after 3 months, 6 months what all was required to be corrected? And it can help you build internal privacy culture and coordination between various teams and stakeholders. So what are the key elements of an effective document? It should have an executive summary which should summarize as to what was the purpose of doing the PIA, what were the objectives, and what were the key findings. And this is only the overview of it. Then it should also have the scope and the objectives in detail. What is the purpose and goals of the PIA with each detail, including what were the overall boundaries given or you had thought or created for the overall assessment. What are the data mapping details? What are the kinds of data that are being processed and how do they flow? What is the flow of data from the time of collection of the data to the time of disposal of the data? What are the risks that you see when you are processing? For example, you are collecting a third-party agency. There is a huge risk that the third-party agency is getting a paper filled, might leak the information, breach the information. So you need to have a very, very tight contract with them because they are collecting the information on your behalf. Maybe you can have surprise checks on the airports to see when they are collecting, where are they keeping the records that they have already collected. Are they just lying on the table for any visitor to cross by and click? Right? So if in case the breach happens and in your name, how would you minimize the impact and what would actually the impact be? What are the mitigation strategies? How would you prove that you didn't intend to do the breach and someone else has done it in your name? How would you resolve it for now? How would you resolve it for ever? What are the responsibilities of each of the individuals involved and in what timelines do they need to close up the responsibilities? Then you should do regular reviews of these documents. Take management's approval, stakeholders' approval, perform updates, review your documentation and your PIA, and monitor the implementation plan. Right? So it could be a mix. You first create an implementation plan, then you monitor it, and then you claim the mitigation plan also as to how do you handle each of the risks that are likely to come in. Right? So that's about how the kind of effective documentation you can have. How can you make them more effective is by using some of the very, very basic practices which are actually best practices. You need to take care of your language. Scope, the language of objectives. More important, the language explaining the risk and mitigation should be very, very clear. The recommendations should be very, very, very clear. The report should be easily accessible to stakeholders. The templates used should be uniform, and forever the same template should be used so that the people trained on collecting and processing the personal data do not have to go through learning cycles again and again. Define very clear next steps and what are the actionable insights. Involve all the relevant teams, whether it's sales team, collection team, marketing team. Marketing does a lot of personal data handling for the organization, right? So involve all of them to see monitor the accuracy of your understanding of the risk versus the business actual understanding of the risk. And throughout the documentation, use images. Wherever possible, use icons and images to explain your point. That makes it easier to understand for your stakeholders, for the regulators, and for the data principals. So that's about how you should create an effective document out of the PIA report that you have created. I hope you like the content of my video. Please press bell and like icon, subscribe to my channel, and share your feedback in the comment section. Thank you.